And welcome back, everyone, to What If. From King Shadow, we have for our one-off What If today. What if Spider-Man was a Jedi? There's a lot of freaking mental gymnastics I have to do for this one, because obviously I can't have Jedi just exist in the Marvel lore, because that is a complete change of the Marvel lore as a whole. So we can't do it from that perspective. So we have to then do it from the perspective of, okay, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is going to become a Jedi within the Star Wars lore, assuming we have like an Earth-type planet in the Star Wars universe and he's found by the Jedi. But then you realize, well, wait, if you think about the way the Jedi work, they find kids at a very young age, indoctrinate them and train them as Jedi. You can't have Peter Parker, even young Peter Parker at 16, Spider-Man, or to 21, 30, whatever he is, go and become a Jedi, because that's not how the Jedi work. Even Anakin, who I believe was like either 8 or 10 or whatever, I can't remember, was considered on the old side to be training. So you can't do it that way. The best way I can kind of figure to do this is to take young Peter Parker, whatever age you take him at, make him a Jedi, however strong a Jedi he would be, and then have an incident happen where he's on a planet, he is bitten by a spider of whatever species on whatever planet he's at, and it gives him the same abilities as that spider. And we can even do the organic web shooters. That's the only way I think you can, what's the best way to put it, as close to each person's lore, the Jedi lore, Star Wars lore, and Spider-Man lore, you can make this type of what if without going straight on fanfic, him being a Jedi in Marvel and all that. Because that doesn't make any, even by like just a standard what if, make the rules how you want kind of thing, that doesn't make any sense in my head. And I know I'm going to get pushed back. I always get pushed back because people say, it's your what if, you can do whatever you want. I hate that argument because I'm doing that. I'm doing what I want to do. It's that I'm not doing what you want to do. I always hate that argument. It's like, it's your what if, man. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, so, it's like, well, I am doing whatever I want. I'm just not doing what you want. Regardless. So, first and foremost, let's look at Peter Parker as a whole. How good of a Jedi would he be? What type of Jedi would he be? What his lightsaber color would be? How strong in the Force would he be? Even prior to the spider bite. Well, Peter is actually, we know, is a very intelligent, was an intelligent kid, just to begin with. He was very inquisitive, very energetic. Would he be a strict Jedi, though? And when I say strict Jedi, I mean, would he be, like, strict to the rules, celibacy, no attachments, all that? Honestly, I don't see him being quite like that. I see him being not a true Qui-Gon Jinn type, Grey Jedi type, which is what Qui-Gon more or less was. But I see him being someone who still valued attachment, who still would value the friendships he has. I don't know if he would take a lover or anything like that, but he still valued I could see him being a Jedi who still valued them, despite the rulings of the Jedi Council. In terms of his ranking, he's at minimum a knight. I have no doubt about that. He'd be at minimum a knight, and I could even see him being a master. We would have to, in terms of like story plot, we would have the Spider-Man we're leading towards in the prequels and beyond, and see if that would make any strong difference. In terms of how strong the Force would be, I think he would have a more scientific, because he was a scientist ultimately, I think his mind would be more scientifically inclined towards the Force. Not doing things like, say, Sith alchemy per se, but still experimenting with the Force in more scientific applications. Trying items. Actually, maybe even developing the web shooters after he gets the spider bite to imitate. Well, no, like I said, he would probably have the organic ones. But then when he gets his organic web shooters, seeing how he can apply the Force to those as well. I think in terms of like raw power, I don't see him being like a Yoda or an Anakin or a Mace Windu, someone whose raw power is very high. I see him being closer to like an Obi-Wan, who still has very impressive showings of Force, but it's even stated that Obi-Wan's strength in the Force wasn't through sheer raw power. it was through more technical, small things. And when you have an astute mind like Peter Parker's, you would definitely be able to apply that more efficiently. That said, though, because of his stance in the Force, and that's, by the way, what really kind of determines the color of your lightsaber, if you're not familiar with that, is where your stance in the Force really is. Someone uses the Force more for practical defense, using it for more. Someone who's not like more inquisitive, someone who's very inquisitive about the Force itself is going to lean towards the green side of a lightsaber. That's someone who's leaning more towards improving their Force abilities as a whole. Blue lightsabers are reserved more for individuals who are more physical with the Force. They still use the Force, but they're much more prone to, say, lightsaber combat. Dooku, for example, had a blue lightsaber before he became a Sith, and he was a master duelist. And then you get like purple's actually someone who teeters the balance between the dark and the light, like who's able to walk that balance. And then you got other ones. Jedi Sentinels are like pure people who have either fallen to the dark side and come back afterwards, or are so hell-bent on being anti-dark that they've completely isolated themselves in the stern teachings of the light side of the Force and hunt down the dark side. That's what a yellow lightsaber is. And then if you go even further into the lore, other lightsaber meanings have other meanings as well. Like orange is a weird kind of middle ground between dark and light. You're like leaning more towards the dark than you are the light, but you're not fully there. Again, there are a lot of other different colors out there that do have different meanings. And this was before the meanings even came into being. I say all this because I see Peter being a lot more of a green Jedi than a blue Jedi. There might be like a middle, because there are middle grounds, like there's, I think, like a teal color or something like that, maybe a turquoise-ish color. So maybe his lightsaber verges more into that realm. But I see that's where his lightsaber would be. And I don't see him being, anything super, super special. He'd have his own unique take on the Force like a lot of Jedis do, but he wouldn't be like anything super special until the incident on the planet where he gets bitten by the spider. He recovers, and he gains all of his Spiderman attributes, which would include now organic web slingers, which he would use in conjunction with the Force for a lot of cool effects, I'd imagine, including, still web slinging, but also, controlling the webs and just binding someone who, like, maybe the webs is like, nope, like doing that, or easy, you would never not catch someone. Maybe even strengthening him with the Force to make him more durable. Wall crawling would be insanely advantageous for sneaking up on opponents or just, scaling into places. He obviously has this heightened physicality, and that would include even a more heightened Force jump. Even augmenting his physical abilities beyond that with the Force would make him probably one of the physically strongest Jedi in the entire temple. We've never met every single Jedi that's ever been. We don't know just how strong some of the Jedi physically were without the Force, but he would probably be, if not the strongest, then among them. And the biggest thing, I think, would be a factor to his whole outlook on the Force is his spider sense, because it gives him an omnidirectional warning system that he has to react to. Now, when you heighten that with the Force, which already gives you precog to certain levels, an awareness of your senses, this is a man who allegedly can't be touched. Like, in combat, this is a man who you've got to beat him with the Force, because you're never going to touch him in a lightsaber duel, ever. And I don't see him being like a Dooku-level duelist, but I could see him still being a very capable lightsaber fighter. Then when you add Spider Sense and the Force added together, it's arguable Dooku would not be able to beat him in a fight. It's just because, even without using any extra abilities, Force push to the menace, his webbings along with the Force, just because he probably would never be able to hit him. So I say all this to lead us into the Clone War. That's really where we'd be leading into, the Clone Wars. Parker would definitely be one of the people who survived Genosha, and then he would be dealing with the Clone Wars. And I think he would be one of the Jedi that survives Order 66. In fact, he might even be one of the Jedi who makes it back to the temple and meets up with Obi-Wan and Yoda. As a Master Parker, you have made it. Yeah, Master Yoda, what's been going on? What's happened? The Sith have emerged. The Emperor, Emperor Palpatine, the true Sith he is. He's old. He's old. He's. I'm trying to think of how Obi-Wan would phrase his line. He's commissioned. He's set those in Order 66. All Jedi are being exterminated. I've only just recently recalibrated the alarm to warn any remaining Jedi to not come near here. Which, by the way, Order 66 really, was very effective, but there were still clearly a lot of stray Jedi all over the galaxy. So, and that's what Vader's main purpose was to hunt down Jedi. So, yeah, it wasn't his main purpose, but it was one of his main things he did. Regardless, so what are we supposed to do now? I can ask you to partake in this next phase. I cannot, Mr. Parker. And he would basically be like, "I'm with you all the way, Master Yoda. There's no Master Yoda. Nothing's stopping us. Nothing stopped me from doing that. Always pushing against the Jedi ways you were, but in this moment, I am grateful for it." And Obi-Wan would basically be like going towards Anakin. And so I'll aid whoever needs my aid. It's like, no, this is something I appreciate that, but I believe Master Yoda will be able to use you more than I'll be able to use you. I have to go confront my Padawan alone. And so, but Peter and Yoda would go to confront Palpatine, and they both get just knocked down the floor before they both get up. And Master Yoda, Master Parker, you survived. Surprised? You should have known better than trying to put a bunch of stormtroopers against us. And so they both are going toe to toe with they both go after Palpatine. And Palpatine again is the far better duelist between him and Parker, but that spider sense, force abilities, and just pure physical strength really puts him over the edge on Palpatine, even without augmenting himself with the Force. And Palpatine, honestly, both Yoda and Palpatine, because of their bodies, have to use the Force to enhance them. But I've always heard it basically described as putting like NOS in an engine. Yeah, the engine's going to burn a lot harder and move a lot faster and perform a lot better temporarily, but it's going to burn out the engine quicker. And because of that, because because Peter is a much younger and more fit individual, he doesn't have that stamina issue that Yoda has. So even though he might get pushed back at one point because of the Senate coming at him, he uses his webs and the Force to just throw it back at Palpatine probably at one point while ultimately catching Palpatine's lightsaber. He ultimately also catches Yoda with the webs and helps him down. So basically what happens is Peter would get thrown out of the fight temporarily. But when Yoda gets near defeated and Palpatine is hanging there on a thread, hanging there by a limb, all of a sudden he hears he gets caught by the web, and he tries to stop him with the Force. And so, yes, that's right, boy. Give in to your fate, give in to the hatred you have of me. It's the only way you'll be able to defeat me. Do it, do it. And then all of a sudden, Peter's just like, yeah, no. And he just kind of lets loose the entirety of the stadium, or the Senate on. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Now, Peter could give into the dark side because of his issues with the black suit. He absolutely could give into the dark side, but I think having a good a group of people to help him with, help him have a solid view. But even if he is not as, even if he doesn't give in to hate or anything like that, he's still, not your phrase that sentence. Even though he values attachments more than other Jedi do, he's not Anakin. And so he basically just kind of lets loose the stadium. Like, no, I'm not gonna kill you. At least I'm not gonna kill you with this saber. I'm not gonna kill you at all. And but you let me live, boy. You foolish, I will hunt you down. Maybe. Well, yeah, you won't. And all of a sudden, I said I wasn't gonna kill you with a saber, but I didn't say I was gonna save you. And all of a sudden, he just lets the Senate fall on him. Like, you think this will stop me? And he's just basically keeping him webbed up. Like, ever since my accident, I've been practicing. The webbing is imbued with my force ability. It's going to take more. So you can either break out of the webbing, or you can try to avoid the Senate. And so Palpatine has to make a choice, and Palpatine, unfortunately, eventually breaks out of the webbing, tries to stop the Senate, but it's too late and just lands on him and crushes him. And they basically have to get out of there before the clone troopers show up. So Palpatine would have been killed. Anakin is defeated, and because Palpatine is killed, he's actually probably left there to die. So that would mean then there's a giant gap within the power structure of the Empire. The Jedi are near all but extinct. But with that, but they have to make some decisions. The Jedi also right now are not in a good standing with the public. The Palpatine has convinced the public that they are the villains, and by all accounts, they kind of are right now. At least in the eyes, they killed the Emperor, they killed Anakin, the Emperor's right-hand man. Not that they knew much about that. Padme is also dead and probably gives birth to Luke and Leia. So it has to be a long and long and I can't remember that word. Arduous. Arduous? No. Arduous. I can't remember the word I'm looking for. It's a long and rough road to get back to a republic versus an empire. Fortunately, though, with descenders like Bail Organa, things like that, I think over time they are able to get back into a stable footing, provided more dark side individuals don't show up. Which is entirely possible in this time frame. Like, the Inquisitors may usurp the Sith in this case, maybe even becoming full Sith. But you can then more or less kind of just ignore the events of Episode 1 and 7 through 9. At least in the way that they happened. Would Luke be living on Tatooine? Probably not, because there's no reason to hide them. Would they be raised as Jedi, Luke and Leia? Maybe, in secret. It's difficult to say really where it could go from there, because it's just a giant open canvas at that point. Maybe a new era for the Jedi takes place, and then new threats come out. You have a completely different version of the original trilogy, where there's no Empire. It's more like a First Order kind of thing, where there's this evil faction that exists out there. But if Spider-Man were a Jedi, I think he'd be invaluable. Not because he'd be so overly powerful in the Force, but because the unique abilities of being Spider-Man and what that allows, combined with the Force, would make him someone that even like I said, in a straight dueling match, even a master like Dooku, would have serious problems trying to tag simply because of that damn spider sense mixed with the Force. Not to mention, kind of like when I mentioned, God, I got something in my throat. Kind of like when I mentioned Superman, when I did that video as a Jedi. His physicality alone puts him well above most individuals in that entire verse. Like, you're talking about individuals like Rancor and stuff like that, who are so large that the only reason they can match Spider-Man's strength, or at least comparable to Spider-Man, is because of their sheer bulk. So Spider-Man being a human, but with the strength of just a beast, and the durability, not quite the same durability, but still enhanced durability. Not that you could survive a lightsaber. Spider-Man could not survive a lightsaber strike. At least not have it go ding. It would still slice clean through him. But you know what I mean. Enhanced reflexes, spider sense, and organic web shears. This makes him so unique in the verse that it'd be very hard. Like, one-on-one, I don't see him beating Palpatine. And just because Palpatine relies more on the Force than he does on lightsaber combat, even though he's a master of it. But anytime, say, for instance, if they were dueling, that they came in close combat with each other, Spider-Man would be able to just toss him aside. He'd be able to ragdoll him if he got a hold of him. So but unfortunately, individuals like Sidious would be smart enough to understand, I can't go up against this guy hand to hand. There's no way. And so I got to do other types of attacks, force lightning, whatever I can. Spider-Man also being smart, though, means that certain tactics aren't going to work that effectively on him. So I don't know. That's my general thought of what if Spider-Man was a Jedi and how it could work in the Star Wars story. Look, if you wanted Jedi Spider-Man in the Marvel universe, first off, it's kind of just, if I do the movies, for example, it kind of ends almost all the movies very quickly because now you're giving Spider-Man telekinesis, you're giving him enhanced force abilities, you're giving him a lightsaber, which means Doc Ock's tentacles are done. Your Green Goblin's guys are gonna force crush the glider and end him pretty quick. Venom. That one might be problematic, but Venom, Sandman, they're not going to be able to do anything. Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, still not an issue. The only time it might be, he's got, let me rephrase this. The only time in any of the movies where it could be not as overpowered would be the MCU. And even so, in Spider-Man Homecoming, he's just dealing with the Vulture. So, yeah, no, that's not problematic at all. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, that's really not problematic. Far From Home, Mysterio, the Force, Spider Sense, all that, he'd be able to discern Mysterio's solutions without too much difficulty. Far From Home, all Spider-Man are being Jedis going against their rogues gallery. Sorry, no, that's not an issue. The only time it wouldn't be as clean cut would be Infinity War and Endgame. And even then, you're just giving him more powers to make it easier. So throwing that into a movie, and the movie universe, makes no real sense. It would be just a clean sweep for him at that point. And then if you want me to do the comics, what comics? Or the TV series. That's 4 seasons of a TV series. And I mean like the original 90s animated cartoon. And then there's like 2 other ones they did. And then there's the the comics have gone on for literally like 60 some odd years. So I think Spider-Man was created like in the early 60s. Yeah, so 60 some odd years, almost 60 years. So I'm sorry if you wanted Spider-Man Jedi in the Marvel universe, but that just doesn't, it doesn't make sense even for me trying to gymnastics that around. And again, don't give me that you can do what you want argument. I just did, and you didn't. If that's your argument, that means you didn't like what I did. And that's fine if you didn't, just pointing it out. So yeah, this was the logical step. Whenever you're saying, what if someone was a Jedi, you have to assume you're putting them in the Star Wars universe for that. So that's my logic. I digress though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.